Alright, so welcome back. In this video, we are going to discuss Sutra 1.30. In the previous video, in Sutra 1.29, we discussed the effects and the outcomes of chanting and contemplating on the sacred syllable Om, which is Ishvara. We've understood that the effects of chanting Om include that the individual or the yogin attains an understanding or an awareness of the individual self, the Purusha. And also, the yogin experiences an absence of the obstacles, right? Antaraya Abhavaha. Okay? So in Sutra 1.30, we are going to discuss what exactly are the obstacles. What are these obstacles that Sutra 1.29 discusses? Okay? So, if you haven't already subscribed, please do so by hitting the lotus icon on the bottom right of the screen for more videos on Sanskrit, Indian philosophy, so on and so forth. And please feel free to visit the Academy of Indian Philosophy.com for opportunities for tutoring and classes. Okay? So, Sutra 1.30 states, Vyadhisthana samshaya pramada lasya virati bhranti darshana labdha bhumikatvan avasthitatvani chitta vikshepastentarayaha. Okay? So, as we break this down, well, let's say the definition first. Those 9 obstacles, which are the distractions of the mind, or which are distractions of the mind, are sickness, idleness, doubt, neglect, laziness, lack of self-control, erroneous perception, non-attainment of stages, and non-situatedness in these stages. Okay? Alright, so let's break the sandhi. First we have Vyadhi. Vyadhi, this is going to be the first one. Then we have Sthyan. Sthyan, second one. Samshaya. Samshaya. Then we have Pramada. Pramada. Right? Then we have Alasya. Alasya. Then we have Avirati. Avirati. Okay. Then we have Bhranti Darshana. So Bhranti Darshana. So these are going to be linked together. Bhranti Darshana. Then we go on here to say Alabdha Bhumikattva. So Alabdha. Alabdha Bhumikattva. These are linked. Alabdha Bhumikattva Anavasthitatva. And then finally Anavasthi Tattva. Anavasthitva. So we're going to finish the rest of it here. So Anavasthitattvani. Tattvani. Right? So we're going to keep it like that. And then we're going to write Chitta Vikshe Paha Te Antarayaha. Okay? So, Vyadhi, Sthana, Samshaya, Pramada, Alasya, Avirati, Bhranti Darshana, Alabdha, Bhumikattva, Annavasthitatvani, Chitta Vikshepaha, Te Antarayaha. So, this is good. I'm doing this. We're going to learn each of the Sanskrit words. We're going to break them down and we're going to really understand this sutra, okay, in its complexity. So this is going to be very helpful here. So let's begin. Now, we're going to start from here. Chitta Vikshepaha Te Antarayaha. Now, as we expressed before, Antarayaha are the obstacles, okay? The obstacles. The obstacles, those, te is here, those, right? It's a demonstrative pronoun. those obstacles that we were referring to in the previous sutra, those obstacles, right? They are vikshepaha. Remember we talked about V plus kship. The root kship. Kship means to throw. And V can mean in different directions. So it's very interesting. It's a throwing in different directions of what? Of the mind. So these obstacles, those obstacles which are thrown in different directions of the mind, or which are throwing of different directions of the mind, so distractions, okay? So these obstacles which are the distractions of the mind are vyadhi, sthana, samshaya, pramada, alasya, avirati, bhranti darshana, alabdha bhumikatva, and anavasthita. Anavasthita stops right here. This tvani is an ending. Actually, anavasthitatva. Anavasthitatva. This ani is an ending, which I'll write it down. So first, let's discuss vyadhi. What is vyadhi? So let's begin with the commentary. So, nava antarayaha chittasya vikshepaha. Nava antarayaha. Right? There are 9 obstacles of the mind. And vikshepaha, they are distractions. Chittasya, of the mind. Right? Saha ete chitta vrittibhihi bhavanti. These, saha ete chitta vrittibhihi bhavanti. These are accompanied with the fluctuations of the mind. So when you have the mind, right, and you have these fluctuations, these obstacles, right, they actually come with these fluctuations, okay? Some may say the obstacles cause the fluctuations and back and forth, but they are accompanied with the fluctuations, the vrittis of the mind, these 9 obstacles. So, etesham abhave na bhavanti, okay? So, etesham, among these obstacles, abhave na bhavanti. When the obstacles are not there, then the fluctuations of the mind are not there. Okay? So since the obstacles and the fluctuations of the mind are correlated with each other, if you remove the obstacles, you'll remove the fluctuations of the mind. Okay? So first, let's discuss vyadhi. Tatra vyadhi dhatu rasa karana vaishamyam. So vyadhihi dhatu rasa karana vaishamyam. So vyadhi, or sickness, vyadhi here equals sickness. Okay? And what is sickness? What is vyadhi? Dhatu rasa karana vaishamyam. It is a disturbance. Sickness is a disturbance of 3 things. First is the humors, right? So here we have the, in Ayurveda, we have 3 constitutions of people, or 3 doshas, constitutions. It's a science, right? Ancient Vedic science. We have Vata, Pitta, and Kapha, right? We have this airy constitution, fiery constitution, sort of, I guess, heavy constitution, right? These are in proportions within our body in some way, right? And so when they're disturbed, then we will have what is called the disturbance, the vaishamyam of the dhatu, of the doshas. So this is what sickness is. When you have vyadhi or sickness, this is an obstacle to yoga. Okay? So in addition to a disturbance in the humors, right? In addition to the disturbance of the humors, we also have a disturbance in the rasa, the second one being rasa, which is the secretions, or literally the juices of the body. So there's a disturbance in this, right? There's a sickness in this. And the third is the karana. So the karana, from the root kru, to do or to make, which is the organs. So along with the humors and the three constitutions, along with secretions and juices, we also have the organs. And so sickness occurs in these three components for Vyadhi. Now, let's discuss the second one. The second one is Sthana. Sthana. Sthana we are defining as idleness. Idleness, right? Okay? And what is being said about Sthana here is this. So, Sthanam akarmanyata chittasya. So, akarmanyata is non-activity. So, karmanyata is activity. Akarmanyata is non-activity. So, Sthanam is inactivity of the mind. So, the mind doesn't want to do anything. You don't want to do anything. So, that's what it is. Inactivity. Just really not wanting to do anything. You just want to sit and be idle. It's not laziness. It's idleness. It's listlessness, right? It's a feeling of not wanting to do anything. So, Vyadhi, Sthana, sickness, idleness. The third one we have is Samshaya. Samshaya. Now, Samshaya means doubt. Doubt or indecision. Doubt or indecision. So here it is written, Samshayaha ubhaya koti sprug vijnanam syat idam evam na evam syat iti. So this is very interesting. So Samshayam ubhaya koti sprug vijnanam is the thinking, the type of thinking that touches upon both topics. So here you have topic X, right? And you're going on one side and you're going on the other side, right? So here it says, in Sanskrit, it says, Syad idam evam na evam syad. So it may be this, it may not be this. So it literally says iti in a quotation. It can be X or it may not be X. I don't know. Can it be this? Can it be that? So doubt is really not knowing about a particular topic, looking at it from both sides. You're just in doubt. And this is considered an obstacle in yoga. You could have doubts about your perception. You could have doubts about your thoughts. You could have doubts about whether the path is going to be helpful or not. So samshaya is a complication here. Okay, so I'm going to just remove this for now. So sickness, so I'll write this here. So sickness, idleness, and doubt. Now we have Pramada. So Pramada. So let's see how to understand this. We will say Pramada, we'll use Pramada as negligence. Okay? So let's say Pramada is negligence. Okay, so what does the Sanskrit say here? It says, Pramadaha samadhi sadhananam abhavanam. Pramadaha samadhi sadhananam abhavanam. So it is the absence of all the practices of samadhi. Pramada, one can say, is really you're ignoring or neglecting the different paths that are there to samadhi. So if this is samadhi and there's path A, path B, path C, so on and so forth, you are not really interested. You're like, no, I don't want to, I'm not really looking at that. I'm neglecting it. Pramada. Here is where yoga is, right? All these different paths to samadhi, but you don't want to go there. It's saying here an abhavanam, so it's not existing. It's a not existing of all the paths, all the practices that lead to samadhi. Okay, so it's negligence. Okay, so I'll write that there. Negligence, and we'll number these. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so negligence. Now let's look at 5. So here we have alasya. Alasya. Alasya is laziness. Just plainly laziness. We can even say sloth, but just plain laziness. The Sanskrit says, Alasyam kasya chittasya cha gurutvat apravrittihi. Apravrittihi, alasyam apravrittihi. It is the non-movement, the non-churning, the non-movement, right, of the body and the mind. So kasya chittasya cha apravrittihi, the non-movement of the body and the mind. Why? Gurutvat, because of heaviness. Because of heaviness. So your body and your mind complex, it doesn't want to move because it's too heavy. There's too much weight. Gurutva. Guru also means heavy, like in tamas. There's too much tamas, or the quality of heaviness in the body and the mind. Why? Because of diet, because of a lifestyle, lack of sleep, etc. Right? The body and the mind become lazy. So laziness is coming from the heaviness of the body and the mind. Okay? So the fifth component here we have as laziness. Okay. Next we have Avirati. Avirati. Okay. So Avirati, we are going to say, is lack of self-control. Lack of self-control. Why? Because Rati is pleasure, desire, wanting things, right? Virati is renouncing it. Nah, I don't want it. I'm good. Virati, you're not interested in it. Then negate it one more time. Avirati, right? You can't help but want things. You can't control yourself. So again, here we are pleasure, renouncing pleasure, and then boom, an inability of renouncing pleasure. So we're going to say lack of self-control. It's a craving. You want the pleasures of life. You want things. Okay? Now, what does the Sanskrit say? Aviratihi chittasya vishaya samprayoga atma gardha. So avirati is gardha. It's greediness. Avirati is greediness, right? Greediness of the mind, actually, that is composed of a union or merging with the object. So it's really craving for the object. So avirati is greed. Greed for what? Your mind complex wants the objects of sense experience, whatever it is, money, fame, success, etc. It's greedy for these things. And so this is a lack of self-control. It wants it. It cannot control itself. So it wants to enjoy. So that's why we have what is considered an obstacle to yoga here. Okay? Seventh one is Bhranti Darshana. So let's just write this then. Bhranti Darshana. Okay? Bhranti Darshana is pretty simple here. Darshana, we're going to say a sight or an observation or a perception. Right? From drush, right? So perception. Perception. Whoops. Just write that again. It's a sight or an observation or a perception. And we're not just going to focus on sight because it's going to be the other senses as well. So, but here it's perception. So we'll stick with sight in this particular case. But we're really acquiring information here. So Bhranti Darshana. So Bhranti is erroneous perception. So this is erroneous. It's an error, right? So a sight or an observation that is erroneous. So what does the Sanskrit say? So it says, Bhranti Darshanam Viparyaya Jnanam. So an erroneous sight or an erroneous observation is knowledge that is error. Very simple. So when there's perception that is error, or when there's perception that is erroneous or false, right, the perception is going to lead to wrong knowledge or error in knowledge. Okay? So we'll say erroneous, Bhranti Darshana is erroneous sight or perception. The commentary will then say erroneous sight or perception is erroneous knowledge, right? You can't see straight, you're gonna do the wrong things, right? You can't perceive things correctly, you're gonna run into a wall, etc. Okay? So, Bhranti Darshana. Then we have the eighth one, which is Alabdha Bhumikatva. Alabdha Bhumikatva. So with this, Alabdha Bhumikatva. So this is going to be, so remember the tva ending means ness. So it is a non-attainment-ness of a stage. So non-attainment of a stage. So we're going to say non-attainment. Non-attainment. And it's really non-attainment-ness of a stage or of stages. What is this referring to? The Sanskrit says, Alabdha bhumikatvam samadhi bhumehe alabha. So alabdha bhumikatvam samadhi bhumehe alabha. Alabha. Okay? So alabha means non-attainment. Non-attainment of what? Samadhi bhumehe. The stage of samadhi. So this term right here, alabdha bhumikatva, which is non-attainment of a stage, which is a general definition, is referring to not attaining any stage of samadhi. So here we have samadhi, right? And we have its stages, right? Sampragnata, asampragnata, vitarka, vichara, ananda, smita, on and on, right? And its stages, right? All these stages. The individual who has alabdha bhumikatva as the obstacle cannot attain any of these stages, has great difficulty attaining them. Okay? So that's all it is. The individual cannot attain any of the stages, has difficulty in doing so. And we've discussed several of the stages in previous sutras, and we'll discuss them more. Okay? So alabdha bhumikatva. Bhumi means like a stage or a level or something. And alabdha is non-attaining here. Okay? And finally, the last one, we're going to say here as anavasthitatva. Right? Yeah. Anavasthitatva. Anavasthitatva. Okay? This we're going to say non-situatedness. 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 Okay? Now, why? I mean, the root is tha, right? Root is tha, to be situated in something, to remain in something, right? Like avasthanam. So, anavasthita, sthiti is a state of steadiness, right? Anavasthiti, right, is a state of unsteadiness. So it's non-situatedness, unsteadiness. Why? What does the Sanskrit say? Anavasthitatvam labdhayam bhumo chittasya apratishtha. Okay? Anavasthitatvam labdhayam bhumo chittasya apratishtha. Okay, so here we're going to say labdhayam bhumo. So when a stage is obtained, so when let's say a yogin does get a stage, let's say a yogin does achieve a state of samadhi, then what is anavasthitatvam? When a yogin attains a stage of samadhi, anavasthitatvam is chittasya apratishtha. Apratishtha is non-situatedness, non-remaining in something. And what is the thing that is not being remaining? It's apratishtha chittasya. It's non-situatedness of the mind, right? Non-remainingness of the mind, right? So a mind that has been, a mind which has been non-situated, okay? So what does this mean? So in the previous one we talked about alabdha bhumikatva. You cannot attain a stage. In this, let's say the yogin gets one of the stages of samadhi, but the yogin can't stay in it. The yogin cannot be situated in this. So the yogin gets it, but then comes out of it quickly. Gets it and comes out of it quickly. Okay? So here it is really essentially chittasya apratishtha. If it was pratishtha without the a in front of it, it's like, oh, the yogin can stay in it. But it's apratishtha, that which has been non-situated. Okay? So let's move towards conclusion here. Samadhi, more information here. Samadhi pratilambhe hi sati tat avasthitam syad iti. So only when a person attains samadhi is a person considered situated. So a person only attains situatedness, steadiness, if only samadhi is attained, right? If only samadhi is attained. So here it's saying that, look, this is an obstacle because a person can't maintain samadhi. And this previous one is an obstacle because a person can't even attain a piece of it or a stage of it. And the next line says, why is this important? Because you're only considered steady if you have attained a stage of samadhi. That is what steadiness is. Steadiness does not exist in other things. Steadiness exists in stages of samadhi. Okay? So, ete chitta vikshepaha nava yogamalaha yoga pratipakshaha yoga antarayaha iti abhidhiyante. So, ete chitta vikshepaha, these distractions of the mind, these obstacles of the mind, nava, 9 of them, right? Yoga mala, they're impurities to yoga. Yoga pratipaksha, they're opposite, contrary, opposing views to yoga. And yoga antarayaha, they're obstacles to yoga. So these obstacles here are very important to remember. Sickness, idleness, doubt, negligence, laziness, Avirati here, which is lack of self-control, which we have written. So lack of self-control, Bhranti darshana, erroneous perception, let's say. Alabdha bhumikatva, well, it's right here. So alabdha bhumikatva, the non-attainment of stages, and anavasthitatva, which is non-situatedness. These 9 are extremely important. Why? Because they're obstacles to yoga. They're obstacles to attaining samadhi. Okay? And these obstacles are removed when an individual chants and contemplates upon the meaning of Om, right? Japaha, arthaha, right? When you do these things, it's said that Ishvara is invoked and these obstacles are removed. So this is the claim that the yoga school of philosophy is making. It's that sickness is removed, idleness is removed, doubt, negligence, laziness, lack of self-control, erroneous perception, non-attainment of stages, and non-situatedness, they're all removed. So you're healthy, you're active, you're certain, you pay attention to the paths. Again, you have energy, you have self-control, you see things clearly and correctly, you attain the stages and you retain the stages. This is what happens when the obstacles are removed. Okay? So this is the completion of Sutra 1.30. It's a nice sequence of sutras here that refer to Ishvara and, Ishvara Pranidhana and what are the effects of chanting Om. Okay? So we will complete Sutra 1.30 here, then we'll go on to Sutra 1.31. Thank you.